Hey guys, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. Upper left hand corner is the orange Terran. We have Light. In the upper right hand corner is the red Protoss. We have Whyman. This is going to be on Pantheon. Should be a fun matchup. So, I had another match I was going to do. This is Halloween, by the way, for me, so you guys get some idea of when this ends up uploaded to YouTube versus when I cast it. Kind of interestingly enough, in the previous match, which I actually figured out was a double replay, we were discussing with Twitch chat, Skincrawler in particular, shout out to Skincrawler, yeah, that if you think about it, StarCraft is maybe adjacent to the, whatever you call the Alien versus Predator universe, where Terran are obviously just the Terran, Protoss are the Predators, and Zerg, of course, are the aliens. I am very curious what to call that universe. You know, you have the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Is there a name? Is it just the Alien versus Predator universe? And then humans are just there? Is that what it comes down to? That feels kind of stale. Maybe there should be a name for that group. Maybe what was the name of the company? With the whatever company, name it after the weird company name. I feel like that makes sense, like the corporate whatever universe. But anyway, you even have invisible men in amongst the Protoss. So effectively you've got that Predator skill tech. Although Zerg aren't exactly eating humans and then spawning. I think in the original they might have. But point being, Alien versus Predator totally stole from StarCraft. They both stole from Warcraft 30k. But that's the order of all things. And all sci-fi steals from one another. Anyway, it looks like Whyman's going to end up with the first scout to the upper left-hand corner. I'm also curious, speaking of stealing, I bet Artosis is going to do this replay. This is a light replay, although he's not stealing. We're getting from the same source. What would be a big benefit, actually, is if we had someone just sitting there camping on Seawall, finding the good games, and basically saying, hey, people cast this. Then we can pick and grab things and organize a little bit better. But anyway, probe sneaking in to the main, immediately getting body block. Fast body block there. I think that was intended to be a scouting SCV, but instead immediately taking a shot. Trying to cycle its way around, but man, it's taking more damage more rapidly. And this shows you kind of pro SCV play here, where you have SCVs are very hard to micro, and man, this probe's having a hard time. Usually probes just win this fight between the recharging shield and how fast they are. Still wanted to get a shot off on that SCV rather than letting it go, and now it's going to be a trade situation. Second supply depot down, by the way, gas up 3 units in it. We do have a gateway, an assimilator, and an initial zealot making its way across the map. But the probe being relegated to go ahead and pull its way back. Light going to scout bottom left-hand corner first. He's going to have to presume, however, that his opponent is to the upper right, given the speed of that probe once there's the follow-up. The factory already about 1/3 finished. And given the ineffectualness of this initial probe to slow down that first factory, I am not confident about the longevity of the zealot. Could be a very, very rapid decline in his health, if you get what I'm saying. 2 Marines going to go ahead and flee back to the protective barrier. That factory might be exposed. Another SCV coming out to linebacker. Man, look at that pro gamer micro. The SCV taking a couple shots just shy of getting killed, although he was body blocking his own Marine there for a second. The zealot took a good chunk of damage, and it looks like he's going to back off from here. Just give up. Wait for that second zealot to come out before trying to engage this initial vulture. There is a world where these 2 zealots can get on top of that vulture, but it doesn't look like Whyman's going to risk it. He's just going to go ahead and back out. We do have range queuing up, and we did have the bottom left to top right hand corner scout, so it looks like that is going to get scouted. He is going to be able to find the cybernetics score and confirm that, but I believe this poor SCV, we can view it as an actor in a mech suit. You can choose what actor it is. I'm not going to make that choice for you. You guys have to do the horrible fate and say which actor that is. That gets destroyed by the photon cannon here, but it looks like it's going to be 1 gate range into expansion here. Bunker going down outside the natural expansion. 4 Marines already interior. Vulture is already out in the map, and that is actually pretty significant. One, that it's already out in the map. That's a very fast Vulture to have out in the map. But secondarily, the fact that Whyman just really didn't get any mental, any sort of visual confirmation as far as the direction it headed. So now he's going to have to definitely play more defensively. We've got a Dragoon back in the front. You can see these units trying to scramble back. And the Vulture's actually making, I think, seeing those troops in the front, making its way. I think once he sees this Dragoon, might want to change trajectory, though. Well, might try to pocket it through and might make it in. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. The Vulture's going to make it in. Might even be able to get some additional probe kills. And, well, certainly going to be able to scout the fact that it was 1 gate into Robo and that there's an end and got a probe on top of it. So amazing scouting. Is he going to get the second? Oh, it looks like he's not going to bother with the second Vulture here. Went immediately into Siege Tank. So skipped and got well, I would want to say maximum benefit if this was upgrading to siege check. Looks like it's upgrading to mines instead. So Light playing a little bit risky, because now with the follow-up, Whyman does have an opportunity to kind of press that natural expansion and provide maybe an opportunity down the line. Well, first he's going to be able to attack that bunker for free for a span of time. That's another advantage, having the vulture running loose out in the map like a wild card. We do have 2 siege tanks down here, but once you grow that dragoon count slightly, although now that I think there's going to be a third, never mind. Looks like he's going to go vultures and use the 2 siege tanks to try to bully this front out. I guess he's going to unload the bunker, use the 2 siege tanks to try to push a lot of this forward. There it is. To go ahead and get that vulture out on the map. And Whyman, yeah, that's a little bit too much firepower just before that 4th dragoon arrives. So now the vulture back out on the map again. 2 zealots making their way back. These units need to scramble back to the natural expansion, otherwise there could be some really strong mines. We have some defensive pylons being levied, and you can just see how much just a single vulture creates panic for the Protoss player, and you might even want to peel off a single dragoon. I'm wondering how many players want to do that, where just peel off a single dragoon if this starts becoming a thing. Just make sure units at these different bases to interrupt the mine drop at the very least. Observatory up at the natural expansion. We have robotics support bay, Reaver in tow, double gate behind that. Second refinery up, several siege tanks in play. Missile turrets also being built in anticipation of a potential well-timed Reaver drop and some decent, look at this mine coverage already. So bottom right, we got a vulture just camping out in case a probe wanted to try to sneak there. This base is blockaded, this base is blockaded. And that's going to cause Whyman, if he's going to take, and I almost wonder if Light's trying to bait him into this, where it's like, okay, you can go ahead and take that 12 o'clock base, go ahead and expand into me as a Protoss. And so I think he's effectively handing that 3rd over to Whyman to put him in. It's kind of one of those chess moves where it's like, okay, go ahead and put your piece into a pinning position here, where it's like, okay, now in the mid, and I'm kind of curious how Whyman is planning on defending this in the mid game. He'll have to really surge the gateway count, really be aggressive on the front now to push Light back, because he's expanding into his opponent. And this gives a lot of options, honestly, to Light, which he's just now getting siege checked, by the way. A lot of options to Light, where he can go for presses and they'll be all the more effective. If he goes for vulture floods and he gets any sort of seal on this corner, which is very likely with any sort of siege tank push, you can see where all of a sudden vultures are flooding into this nexus and shutting down that 3rd base. Missing a little bit of the drop right here. Looks like they're able to get 1 siege tank. Ooh, getting a pretty good splash shot on 2. Although weirdly enough, that didn't do the expected damage. It's like it exploded but only caught the edge radius right there. But point being, Light's in a pretty strong position here. +1 weapons upgrading in the midst of this. Finally, the observer out. Now the curiosity will be, does Whyman go up to a 4th base with an additional, with his 3rd base kind of in a more automatically starting out in a defensive slot? 4 vultures, by the way, out in the field, hoping to snipe, but not going to be in a position to snipe that observer. It's incredible how aggressive Terran have gotten, by the way, at this sort of mid-game play, where especially at these upper levels, where Protoss absolutely have to defend their probes making the way to the base, and absolutely have to defend the corner here. And so even the attempt, well, okay, as much as I want to praise Light for that, just going to bleed off a couple vultures for free. And I think some of them even had some mines. Ooh, Reaver able to get some shots. So nice play there from Whyman. Never mind. Looks like the mines were unloaded and those are just the vultures from earlier in the game. But now we're going up to 6 factories. So it's going to be 6 factories, and you already have this floating engineering bay to spot this 12 o'clock position. So this is going to be an incredible, and it looks like a 4th base has been grabbed. So this is going to be an incredibly strong push. Very vulture heavy. We'll see if at 3, I don't think a 3rd machine shop's going to drop. You're going to have some Goliaths in tow to deal with the drop ship, just in case that was an option. But if you just look at the raw supply, the supply count is is dangerously close. And as soon as you have these 6 factories pumping siege tanks and vultures, that supply count, I think, is going to swing in Light's favor overall. At which point, we'll see if Whyman can scramble to make some sort of defense happen. Maybe if he went for heavier shuttle play, he's got to have some miracle Reaver play here on the front. Honestly, I feel like Light has played this very, very well up to this stage. He's going to go for a gateway flood in the midst of this. I think he's just now getting that Citadel of Vadun. And so by the time this attack hits, you're going to see Zealot leg speed upgrading. So it's probably going to be slow Zealots as well. In fact, I'm expecting Light to go with +1 weapons Yeah, so Reaver's got a little bit there. The Observer going to get picked off, which is going to make these Reaver's jobs all the harder. And not a lot of scouting information on Whyman's part otherwise. And here's the other thing. With the 6 factory on top of this, sometimes you don't even go for the press, although I think this is going to be an attack in the midst of this. Sometimes you just... That was such a pro gamer Vulture right there. It was able to get both Scarab shots there and back off. Nice little mind pick off there by there's kind of that old Seven Samurai thing where it's like, I'm enamored by your skill. That's kind of what I feel like about Light's play in this game thus far. It's just really been fantastically tactical and just perfectly executed is what it comes down to. Vulture getting picked off right there, but mostly providing detection without a scan. Another Observer getting picked off. The Shuttle taking heavy damage. This is the key spot to hold, and like I was talking about earlier in the match, yeah, Reaver getting stranded up there. It's a very difficult location to hold, and now the Vultures... Keep in mind, you're just going to have a complete flood of Vultures making their way this direction, and it's not going to be long before the siege tanks take the high ground. We already have some pylons push forward, 2 Vultures making their way in. This is now a shut down third base. Light, I want to pull back my earlier statement where Light has does not have more supply just as of yet. The Reaver up onto that base, and we have more reinforcements making their way out the mount. We do have a pocket of Dragoons mid-map, but this is just a very difficult position to attack into. I think he's hoping to maybe take out some reinforcements, but the mine's already there. Now Light is going to end up taking over the supply lead because you had a brief... All those pylons going down put Whyman in the red, and the Nexus now in siege range, so it's going to get wiped out. So the probes are wiped out, the Nexus is going to drop, and that's going to make it a lot harder to utilize all of these gateways. Zelt leg speed's only halfway finished. And Light on top of this, going to go ahead and grab a command center at the 11 o'clock position. So took out a base, is now going to be even overall, is getting mines out in the map, marauding out. There are 2 cannons and a group of Dragoons to go ahead and take care of this attack, at the very least. The Dragoons doing a good job of holding in, but the Vultures at the very least going to be able to flood in. Man, taking out a lot of probes. Look at the focus fire there. Holy cow. That was with 2 cannons and some Dragoons alongside. And only 3 probes survived out of that. Only 3 probes survived. So that drops the... Usually as Protoss, you want to be... You want to have like 55, 60 probes at this stage, right? And 4 bases up. Now it is 3 base versus 3 base. Light has the worker lead. And probably... Let's see if he's tacked on. Yeah, tacking down additional factories here. +1 armor about finished. Starport control tower going down. I don't think we're going to see drops here. I am expecting 2 additional factories in not too long. A Reaver has managed to make its way due north, lost its life to that shuttle along that edge. Reaver trying to do what it briefly was able to stop mining here at the 11 o'clock position. It looks like some additional Dragoons were hoping to attack, but we already have mines in that location. Reaver's now been wiped out, have been missing Whyman's drops. Zelt leg speed is going to finish. 13 supply lead for Whyman. That does not feel like a sizable, comfortable lead. He is going to have a couple side storms to work with, but he's not going to have anything like shuttles or arbiters to support. So he's going to have to really rely on basically Light being overwhelmed by the targeting. And I think that is a tall order. Now he's going to move down, take that 3 o'clock. Looks like he has managed to resaturate to at least even up the worker count at these locations. But part of the problem is the... Well, +1 armor is going to kick in. You're going to have, you're going to be even at mech army counts. You have, well, I guess it's still going to stick. Never mind. I didn't think we were going to see a dropship, but we are seeing a dropship here from Light. I don't know how that's, the one problem with this is I don't know how it's going to get to any location where it's going to be an effective drop is the thing. It just feels like supply to me that could have been a siege tank, right? Some gas that could have been a siege tank, and I almost wonder if it would have been more effective as a siege tank. I mean, granted, it might be able to go into that 12 o'clock, but this is Light, so maybe he's just kind of practicing at this stage, honestly, on the ladder anyway. Looks like he is going to be able to, and as I say that, look at this. Drops 2 Vultures in a natural expansion, partly catches Whyman off guard, because honestly, it caught me off guard. This is not what I was expecting. And Whyman actually dropping a cannon defensively in concern. It looks like the 2 Vultures are going to be able to sneak up to the main. At the very least, this is preoccupying. Give that Vulture not getting a lot, and the dropship, well, might provide some scouting, and it forced 2 cannons out from Whyman, which honestly makes it more than cost efficient. But the Vulture's now streaming forward. I think Light was hoping that more of the army would draw back. Whyman actually kept a lot of that army pinned to the front. He has a little bit of a pincer attack. It looks like the Southern Dragoons, however, are getting slammed by the siege tanks, and we have a lot of mines to make their way through to join up, and now this is one big concentrated mech army. An advantage for Whyman, though, is he does have out leg speed. He does have his shuttle with High Templar in it, and man, this is going to be a bunch sharp army. Great opportunities, Psystorm, Mega Psystorm, and Zealots on top of it. So Light, where he played fantastically up to this stage, all of a sudden getting a massive amount of his siege tanks absolutely obliterated, although he has managed to take the supply count lead in the midst of that, but that was a huge loss. A dropship just spotting here at the 3 o'clock. Wow, that was a lot of dead tanks, and what a fantastic set of Psystorms there by Whyman to really put him in a better situation in this match. Light continuing to be aggressive, moving his way forward. He still has a large set of siege tanks on the front, and he's starting to try to close the noose. We do have another Nexus bottom right. We have more probes. Well, okay, never mind. I was expecting those probes to be headed to bottom right. The command center is actually moving in to take the 12 o'clock. So the previous base now in Light's control. I'm wondering if that will open up Psystorm drops here. That could open up some Psystorm drops. The Dragoon, but critically for Whyman, he does have to play a little bit more aggressively into his opponent here, because this is a close defensive and aggression location. I kind of like that, actually. It's like, okay, now you're at risk of being encapsulated. At the same time, on Light, he needs to make sure he doesn't end up losing any engagement, because if he loses a mega engagement, that means that 12 o'clock is instantaneously exposed. On top of that, by the way, you have 3 Dragoons just kind of sitting here out in the map otherwise. But everything, we got shuttles, we've got some High Templar. This time, a pretty good spread out on the map. +2 weapons just about finished, and +2 armor that is not that far behind it. We do have +2 weapons behind this. How many gateways do we have? We got a pretty sizable gateway count. No Arbiter tech, by the way, no other tech. And Light starting to press into the 3 o'clock. Whyman going to try to cut the Gordian knot here and go across the middle location, trying to storm, find some storms. Does catch a good amount of the vultures. The High Templar are out, but the tanks are just too well spread in the midst of this. And so that army gets completely decimated. So the vultures get mostly handled, but the vultures aren't really the problem here. It's taking care of those bulk siege tanks. Usually Protoss can more rapidly rebuild and make their way out on the map. We do have some more vultures and siege tanks making their way in. Vultures produce in mass. Light continuing to try to press that army up. Some mine drags into that attack fleet. 3 o'clock base. Looks like it is in fact going to hold between all of the follow-up drops. One shuttle gets picked off. I don't know if it had anything in it even. And a siege tank getting stormed over that high ground. Now it's a very thin defense. So even supply, keep in mind Protoss usually rebuilds more rapidly than Terran just because their units tend to build faster. The Vultures is kind of that one unit that's the exception. And right now Goliaths are being produced rather than, so we got 3 Vultures here rather than a lot of Goliaths that are being produced, I think, to try to swat those shuttles, which means, yeah, you see that 20 supply surge. So Whyman might have put himself in a situation where he can get right back in this match, trying to do some, I think that might have been accidental, but did get some mine clearage. He's got that bottom right hand up, is just building some probes on site primarily, it looks like, to fill in that base. But in a decent economic position here. And this is past the 18-minute mark, so mains mined out. So this is now 3 base versus 4 base. So good situation for Whyman, and he does have a decent supply lead. However, +2 weapons, +2 armor has completed. And he doesn't have Arbiters, he doesn't have Stasis, so the Psystorm has to be on point. Just absolutely has to be on point. And more mines laid towards this 3 o'clock base. Good Psystorm there on the edge. A defense matrix on the front to try to keep that initial siege tank a little bit more healthy. High Templar backing up and Light continuing to swarm around. It looks like Whyman, rather than trying to push into the better position, the better siege trench position at the north, is in fact trying to engage and defend this Nexus, because if he does end up even Nexus, it could end up being a dangerous situation. A slew of shuttles making their way in. High Templar picked off before they're able to storm, though. Only a single storm makes its way out before all of the High Templar are picked off, and that is going to be GG. Yeah, can't hold it now. Fun one back and forth, though, but Light is just an incredible player. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.